Yo, what's up guys, it's King Sean here, and in today's video, I'll be recapping days 3 and 4 of the 2025 NFL Combine. I'll be going over each position group that participated on day 3 and 4, so that's the receivers, QBs, running backs, and O-linemen. Won't be going over the QBs because, well, we don't need a QB, right? So I don't really see the point of going over the QBs, right? But maybe I'll talk about them a little bit during today's video. But before we get into today's video, make sure y'all leave a like down below, subscribe if you're not already subbed up, and turn on notifications. So let's start off with the running backs, man. The running backs were awesome yesterday. We finna get ourselves a really good running back, man. A speedy, explosive running back in this draft, man. I can guarantee you it. In the first 3 rounds, like within the first 3 rounds, we're definitely going to draft one of these backs because these backs are absolutely incredible. Let's start with Omarion Hampton, who was the top back that performed yesterday or worked out yesterday. Genty didn't perform yesterday. Obviously, he didn't need to work out at the combine, so he's just going to wait until his pro day to work out. But Hampton, man, he basically confirmed everything that was true about him. He is a big dude, a big back, 5'11", 221 pounds, 38-inch vert, along with a 10-10 broad. That is amazing, and those two things usually mean that you're going to run a pretty fast 40, right? If you have a good vert, good broad, means that you're probably going to run a pretty fast 40 because it means you're explosive, and Hampton did just that. Run a 4.46 40-yard dash, which is incredible for a guy his size. The main concern when it came to Hampton, right, because to me, he's the most complete back in the draft. Not the best runner. That title belongs to Ashton Genty, but the most complete back in the draft overall. With Hampton, the main question was his long speed. Did he have enough long speed? And, I mean, he proved it to me yesterday. 4.46, that is great for a guy his size, right? So, man, Hampton, he balled out yesterday. He also looked good in on-the-field drills. A bit inconsistent when it came to catching the ball. However, he did look good on film when it came to catching the ball out the backfield. So, overall, man, Hampton, he looked great yesterday. And after yesterday, I just don't see a chance where he falls to our pick at 29. If he does, I would definitely consider taking him. However, there are some running back needy teams ahead of us. So, Omarion Hampton, once again, he absolutely balled out or performed big time at the combine yesterday. Let's now talk about the 2 OSU backs, Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson. Starting with Henderson, he did not partake in on-the-field drills yesterday. He only ran the 40-yard dash, and that's all he needed to do. He ran a 4.43 40, which is really good. Honestly, thought he would run somewhere in the 4.3s. However, a 4.43 is still really good, and honestly, he's probably faster than that on film. He looks faster than that in the game. He's very explosive. So he's a guy that, if you want a speedy, explosive, home run hitting running back, which we need, TreVeyon Henderson is definitely a guy that could provide you with all of those things, right? So Henderson's definitely a guy I'm very interested in at the running back position. Not sure if he'll fall to us in the second round at 61. Maybe we trade back from 29 to acquire more picks in the later rounds, like day 3, and then grab an extra second as well, right? Which will allow us to probably draft a guy like Henderson, but we'll see. Moving on to Quinshon Judkins, though, he put up a 9.88 RAS score, which is really good. He has very similar numbers to Omarion Hampton, right? Like, when it comes to their height, 5'11", 221, that's literally Omarion Hampton's size, right? So very similar. When it comes to the explosion grade, vertical and broad, 38.5 vert with an 11 flat broad. So very, very similar to what Omarion Hampton posted up. And then as for his 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.48 40. 4.48 40 is really, really good for a guy like Judkins, who is a bigger back like Omarion Hampton, right? So when you just compare the numbers between the two, both guys are very, very similar, right? So Judkins, I feel like he'll go second round, and I think he'll go, it's kind of hard to say. Like, him and Henderson are kind of different. Henderson is more of the home run hitting explosive back, while I feel like Judkins is more of, you could say, the complete back with better vision and could possibly be a 3-down back, right? So it really depends on what you want in a running back. But Quinshon Judkins, he's going to go high in the second round. And if he's there at 61, then he's a guy that I would definitely consider taking because he's a really good running back. And then arguably the star of the show yesterday at the Combine among running backs was Bayshore Tutton. He absolutely put on a show. 4.3 240, ranked first out of all running backs, had a 40.5 vertical jump, ranked first out of all running backs, and a 10.10 broad, which ranked second out of all backs. So this guy put on a show yesterday. He's from Virginia Tech, or he went to Virginia Tech. So, hey man, he has an opportunity to stay in state if we were to draft him, right? We obviously have our training practice facilities in Virginia, so, he has the opportunity to stay in state if he were to get drafted here, right? Before yesterday, he was looked at as a day 3 running back prospect. Now, he's probably going to be a day 2 running back prospect. If I had to guess, probably going to be drafted in round 3, right? Maybe round 2, like back end round 2, which is where we pick actually. But my best guess would probably be round 3 for Bayshore Tutton, because you got to remember, this running back class is very, very stacked, and teams may not feel the need to draft a running back so high because of how stacked the class is, right? So they may just want to, fill in one need and then address running back later on because there should be more good running backs left on the board, right? But man, Bayshore Tutton, he was great yesterday. He looked good in on-the-field drills. Wasn't amazing when it came to catching the ball out the backfield, but he had quick feet and looked very explosive, had good burst, good speed. So, hey man, this guy is definitely a guy to watch. Now I just want to show you guys a full list of the running back 40-yard dash times. And I just want to use this list to kind of point out which guys really stood out to me yesterday. We already talked about Bayshore Tutton. Jaden Blue, he was expected to run a fast 40, and he did. Same with Brashard Smith. RJ Harvey's a guy that really stood out to me. I thought he looked really good in running back drills, looked really fluid, had pretty quick feet, and obviously he ran a fast 40, right? So he's an explosive guy who seems to have home run hitting ability based off of his 40-yard dash. So he may be a guy that we decide to target, and you would probably be able to get him maybe on day 3. Maybe round 3 is when you would have to draft him. However, maybe if you somehow acquire a 4th or a 5th round pick, you can take him with one of those picks, right? So he's definitely another option. Just going down this list here, Trevor Etienne, he ran a fast time, but I'm not a huge fan of him. DJ Giddens, he had a really nice performance as well. I feel like he looked really good in on-the-field drills. Donovan Edwards, man, I really wish he declared for the draft last year, because if he did, feel like he would have gone much, much higher than where he's going to go this year. He's going to be a day 3 pick for sure, most likely. Probably round 5 or round 6, maybe even round 7, right? But probably round 5 or round 6. So, his stock has kind of fallen, but he did have a nice 40-yard dash yesterday. So there's that. Raheem Sanders, he's another guy that definitely stood out to me. He's more of a bigger guy. However, he ran a pretty fast 40 at 4.46, and he looked very explosive during running back drills. And I thought he caught the ball very well out of the backfield, right? So he's another guy that I could definitely see us targeting. And then Woody Marks, he's a guy that they were raving about his receiving ability, specifically Daniel Jeremiah, man. He didn't run a fast 40, or the fastest 40, I would say, 4.54, which isn't bad. However, I feel like we need like 4.4 speed, right? Something like that. But Woody Marks, he looked really good when it came to catching the ball out the backfield in those drills, right? So he's a guy that if you want a receiving back, he'd be a guy that you would probably want to take a close look at, right? So he's a guy that, I could potentially see us being interested in. And then one more guy I wanted to talk about is Dylan Sampson. He did not run a 40-yard dash, which I'm kind of surprised at because he's explosive. Like, he's really fast. He took part in on-the-field drills, and he did have a hamstring issue he talked about yesterday to, I'm pretty sure, Charles Davis. So that was the reason why he didn't run, but he took part in drills, and he looked explosive, right? The hamstring looked fine. He caught it out of the backfield well. He had great burst, really good footwork. He had really quick feet. And for some reason, he didn't run, which I don't know why. He would have ran fast, right? I thought he would have ran like a 4.3, maybe a low 4.4, but possibly a 4.3. So, hey, man, he was looking really, really good yesterday in on-the-field workout drills. He's one of my favorite running backs in the entire running back class. So he's a guy that I feel like would fit perfectly in this offense. Moving on, let's talk about the wide receivers. And we did trade for Deebo Samuel yesterday, so some of the guys I wanted to talk about were probably realistic options at 29 before we traded for Deebo. I mean, we still may draft him at 29. Like, we still may draft a receiver at 29. Just because we traded for Deebo does not prohibit us from drafting a receiver at 29. However, with us doing that, it makes it look less likely that we're probably going to draft a receiver at 29, right? So the two guys I wanted to talk about were Luther Burden and Matthew Golden. Both guys were phenomenal yesterday. Matthew Golden, he ran a 4.29 40-yard dash yesterday, which I was very shocked at, to be honest with you. I thought he would run like a 4.4 40-yard dash. He ran a 4.29. That is unbelievable. Now, he is 5'11", 191 pounds, so a little bit smaller. However, that's not bad size at all, and he is super fast, right? And he looked good in on-the-field drills as well. Same with Luther Burden. He looked really good in the gauntlet. He stayed in line. He caught everything. And when it came to the other on-the-field drills, he looked really fluid. He does a good job of tracking the ball over his shoulder. And he ran a really fast 40, a 4.42. I thought he would run a 4.3, not gonna lie. However, that's still a really, really good 40 time for Luther Burden, man. I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about him because of the disappointing season he kind of had this past season with Missouri. However, if you turn on the 2023 tape, man, he was just so good. And I feel like he does deserve to be picked in the first round. And I think he will be. I don't think he's going to fall to us, unfortunately. I think he's going to be picked before us because there are a couple of receiver-needy teams like the Steelers and Broncos, and those two teams may go with a guy like Burton, right, or even Matthew Golden. So both guys balled out, but there are some other guys I would like to talk about that we could get in the mid-rounds, second, third, maybe even fourth round if we acquire a fourth-round pick. First guy I want to talk about is Maryland wide receiver Ty Felton, man, a fellow Terp, 6 foot, 183 pounds, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash, so he's really fast. And I watch Maryland games this year pretty much almost every Saturday. Not every Saturday, but I watch Maryland games a lot this year. And, man, Ty Felton was a beast, man, like one of the better Maryland receivers in Maryland history, really, man. He was an absolute baller for Maryland this year. He had a 39.5 vert and a 10-10 broad jump, which is really good. It shows how explosive he actually is, right? So this is a guy that you can get, honestly, in the third or fourth round, right? Before yesterday, he was projected to go on day 3. Now I feel like he'll go on day 2. We're picking at 79 in the second round, or not second round, sorry, third round, right? So we may be able to get him if he's available and if we want him. And he would be a really good third option for us, in my opinion, because he has really good yards after catch ability. He's super fast. He's a guy that I feel like would be a great option for Jaden Daniels and would be another good option to add to this receiver core. Another guy I want to talk about is Jaden Higgins, receiver out of Iowa State. He's another one of my favorite receivers in this entire draft class. The way he moves at his size is ridiculous, man. He's 6'4", 214 pounds, 33-inch arms. So if you're looking for a guy who has size and length at receiver, Jaden Higgins is your guy. He put up a 39-inch broad jump, or 39-inch vertical, and a 10 flat broad jump, which is really good. Or no, he put up a 10.08 broad jump, So 10.8 broad jump, that's really good right there. 4.47 40-yard dash. That is insane for a guy that is 6'4", 214 pounds, right? That is unbelievable. And he went to the Senior Bowl early on in February, and he looked great at the Senior Bowl, man. Like, he was cooking cornerbacks in one-on-one drills, and he looked pretty solid in the actual game. He moved really well in on-the-field drills at the Combine yesterday, man. Jaden Higgins is a guy that I'm very interested in, and you'll be able to get him in the second round most likely, right? Now, will you be able to get him at 61? Not exactly sure, right? If you decide to trade back from 29 to somewhere between like pick 33 to 40 in the second round, then I feel like you have a better chance of getting a guy like Jaden Higgins. But Jaden Higgins, he provides, once again, great size, speed, length. he's a guy that would be perfect, in my opinion, as a third option or your big body receiver that we need. Like, our tallest receiver last year was Noah Brown, and he was 6'2", right? We haven't had size at the receiver position in a hot minute, right? Like, it's been years since we've had size at the receiver position. So getting a guy like Jaden Higgins who would provide size at the receiver position for us would be great, in my opinion. And then I just want to go over the full list of receivers that ran the 40-yard dash, and I'll point out some receivers that stood out to me during the day as well. Dante Thornton Jr., he ran a 4.3 40-yard dash, super fast, receiver out of Tennessee. Seems like if you go to Tennessee, you're fast, right? Like Jalen Hyatt back in 2023, Dylan Sampson this year, and then you have this guy right here, Dante Thornton Jr. So Tennessee guys are pretty much always pretty speedy. Isaiah Bond, it's kind of funny that he said he was going to run a 4.1 or a sub 4.2 or a 4.2 straight up, and he ended up running a 4.39, which isn't bad at all. That's super fast. But you kind of set yourself up, bro, by saying you're going to run a 4.2 or sub 4.2, and you ended up running a 4.39. Not even close to what you said you were going to run. But, you know, Bond still had a really good 40 time. Jalen Noel, he stood out from the Senior Bowl, and he stood out again in the Combine or at the Combine yesterday. 4.39 40, that's really good. He also had a really good vert and broad jump, and I thought he looked very, very good in on-field workout drill. So Noel, I actually had him in my first mock draft. That's a guy that you could look out for us to take maybe on day 3 or possibly in round 3 this year. So he's a guy you should definitely take a look at. Kyle Williams, he ran a 4.4 flat. No, we met with him at the Senior Bowl. Maybe a guy we show some interest in. Jimmy Horn, he actually had a really good day. In my opinion, he ran a 4.46 40 from Colorado. He looked really good in the gauntlet drill and looked pretty solid overall in on-the-field drills. He's really speedy, really good after the catch. So that's a guy we may target. He's probably going to go day 3, maybe like 6th or 7th round. So he may be a guy you decide to target in the draft as well. And last but not least, want to go over some of the linemen that really stood out from today. Armin Membu had himself a day, man. After today, it wouldn't shock me if he's picked in the top 10. I'm being so serious. There's some teams in the top 10 that need tackle. The Patriots are picking at 4. And look, Daniel Jeremiah on the broadcast said, hey, man, you know, Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, they may like a guy or love a guy like Armin Membu, so much so that they may pick him in the top 4, right, at pick number 4. So Armin Membu is considered as the best right tackle in this year's draft, man, and he stood out today at the Combine. He is 6'4", 332 pounds with 33-inch arms. That is incredible. He ran a 4.91 40. 4.91 for a guy that's 330 plus pounds. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And he posted up a 34-inch vert and a 9.07 broad jump. Once again, he's 332 pounds. I mean, that is just insane, man. He is an athlete, and I mean, if you wanted him here in Washington, if you're a Commanders fan, if you wanted him here in Washington, yeah, there's no chance he's going to fall to us. He had an absolute great day, man, at the Combine, and I would not be shocked if he's picked in the top 10. He's probably going to go at least top 15, man. Jonah Saviana, hopefully I pronounced his name right. I think I butchered his last name a little bit, but he had a good day as well. He had a 4.95 40-yard dash, and he looked good in on-field drills as well. Tate Rutledge, guard out of Georgia, he had a good day, 4.97 40-yard dash. Also think he looked really, really good in on-field workouts. He may be a guy that you'll be able to get in the 2nd round, maybe 3rd round, and he could be a starting guard for your NFL team, right? So that may be a guy you want to look out for. Will Campbell, I thought he had a nice day, but there's no chance he's going to fall to us because he's one of the best tackles in this year's draft. One guy that could fall to us, maybe available at 29, Ariante Ursere, tackle out of Minnesota. He stood out at the Senior Bowl, looked really good at the Senior Bowl, and looked really good today at the Combine. And look, if the team decides to move Brandon Coleman inside to left guard, and right now I don't think they do, I think they just leave him at left tackle. However, if they move him inside, watch out for Ariante Ursere at 29 because he's a guy that I could definitely see them considering drafting if they feel like they could upgrade the left tackle position. So Josh Connerly Jr. is another guy that stood out to me. He's a very realistic option at 29. If we feel like we can upgrade the left tackle position, Connerly is a really good option for us at 29. So that's really about it for all of the O linemen that really stood out to me today. So that is it for the 2025 NFL Combine. Been a pretty solid 4 days. A lot of guys stood out. A lot of guys rose their draft stocks. And a lot of guys that intrigued me, moved me, and I could see the Commanders targeting a lot of the guys that really stood out during this last 4 days, right? So that's about it for this Combine. And obviously up next, free agency starts in 1 week from tomorrow. Well, the legal tampering period starts in 1 week from tomorrow, but we'll basically get all the signings once the legal tampering period opens up throughout the next 2 days of the legal tampering period, right? So make sure y'all subscribe, turn on notifications because I'm going to have all the news that comes out this week because remember, we're going to get trades this week. Franchise tag deadline closes on Tuesday. We're also going to have some re-signings. Make sure y'all just turn on notifications, subscribe to not miss a single one of my videos because I'll have some very important news in each and every one of my videos, most likely. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.